Joe Marino is with the Common Council, City of Utica. Joseph, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Good. So we had seen a public notice in the OD the other day that talked about eminent domain for a project in the Harbor Point area, and the City of Utica was doing it. So the question became then, 2 weeks ago, why can't the City of Utica do the eminent domain? It seems like they can do it for Harbor Point. And then, of course, the release came out, and now the city looks to be moving forward to be handling eminent domain. So what's the responsibility of Utica?
Yeah, well, eminent domain, obviously, first and foremost, is not the most ideal way to go about things. So primarily, I think that everybody involved is hoping to get a good, solid working relationship with all the property owners so it doesn't have to go through, naturally.
Sure.
But the process would be, from what I understand, and we weren't really advised by the mayor or given much information as to what his agreement was, so we only kind of know what you know. But I know through us, eminent domain might not even have to touch the council. I think it's going to go through URA and their own kind of autonomous board.
Manaski.
Jim Zecca texted in this morning, and before you even went down this road, he asked me to ask you this question. Ask
Sure.
Councilman Marino who gave Urban Renewal the authority to begin the eminent domain process for the city. He says, isn't the council responsible for that duty under the city charter?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's what I asked our corporation council, and I haven't heard back yet. We have a meeting tonight that I think that we'll take up that issue a little bit to try to figure out, because I don't know. The short answer is I don't know who gave Urban Renewal that. Look, Urban Renewal has its own powers, its own authority, it's its own board, but the Common Council does generally handle all public properties of public space in the city. So we may have to work together on it, but right now I don't know.
Are you handling that Harbor Point eminent domain possibility?
Yeah, how did that happen? How did that come to be?
Same idea. Harbor Point is its own LDC, and they have access to that property. They, in the beginning of the process, they've, kind of overtaken from the Common Council, and the Common Council gave them authority, I believe, which will be a big deal. So, don't quote me yet, but I believe the Common Council gave them authority over all those properties. Now, the Common Council hasn't given anybody any authority over any properties, but the situation with the hospital, they sit in an urban renewal district. So by nature of the fact that it's, an urban renewal area, they may have the authority to do that themselves.
Right. So you're saying the eminent domain project that was listed in the paper the other day for Harbor Point, that's something that the Common Council was involved in? We've
been involved in that process from the very beginning.
But not in this. So the question remains: will they have to go back and get approval from the Common Council? If that's the case, do you feel that would pass? Do you feel that the council would vote in favor of that?
Yeah, I would only be speculating, but I would imagine so. Only because the Common Council has given a 9-0 approval of the downtown site about a year and a half ago. I don't know if anyone's opinion has changed drastically. But, this is the problem with this project from the very beginning.
Yeah.
There's no communication.
I want to ask, too, what I find interesting is, so the city is going to handle the eminent domain for the hospital footprint. The county is going to handle the eminent domain for the garage. Wouldn't it be better if just one agency handled eminent domain for the whole thing? Why is it got to be two different deals, it seems?
Yeah, I think personally that's just a political kind of football, and I think that, perhaps the mayor didn't want to have his hands around the whole entire project, and Tony Piceni stepped up and gave him a little political cover.
All right.
That's the only answer I could think of, because I think you're right.
Well, why would the county just do the whole thing then?
Yeah, it's really not a county project. This thing is all inside the city of Utica. I think it's great that the county would participate in that, and I think it was, really something that they. And again, I'm just speculating, Jeff, only because they haven't given us any information. The mayor's
it doesn't have anything.
But you talk to people though.
Right. And if just for me, I would imagine that the whole project should have gone through a city, process, because they're city properties.
Okay.
It'd be like us trying to take over eminent domain for Rome. I understand the county's involved greatly. So maybe that's perhaps what the mayor was thinking, but you're going to have to ask him.
Did it have anything to do with the fact that 2 of the possible 3 problem properties are in the garage footprint, and the mayor may have possibly wanted the county to deal with that?
Again, Andrew,
are you hearing that? Is that what you're hearing? Or are you just making that
assuming.
up? Okay.
Well,
because I didn't hear anything about a quote unquote problem property. I know that there's 3
because the last we heard, Utica didn't want a thing to do with this.
Yeah.
Right. And then I got his press release just like you guys did.
That was kind of the most amazing part of all of this is that it wasn't going to be the city, and we've heard people say adamantly it wasn't going to be the city, from the mayor's office. Then all of a sudden it is, so a deal must have been cut. But either way, it is odd that it's being done by 2 different agencies. And your take, though, is that if it was you making the decision, it would be the city of Utica handling the whole thing in one process.
From the very beginning, when I heard that this was a holdup of the hospital project, I'd imagine that something was going on politically more than it was strategically or otherwise, because the properties are all located within the city. Why would you want another agency to go forward and start an eminent domain with them? But again, Tony's been a leader in this process the entire time, and I think that him stepping up and involving himself with it can only help the issue.
Okay. All right, Joe, we appreciate you talking on this issue. Joe Marino, Councilman, City of Utica. Thanks so much.
Guys, thanks so much.
All right.
I appreciate it.